This is a lesson absolutely everybody can do. I'm going to show you how to create these dramatic water droplets in pastels. They look complicated, they're really simple. Let's jump right in. For the droplets, I'd first need to put an underlayer down. Now I'm using an orange pastel stick on buttercup pastel matte paper. The sticks just make pastel so easy to put down. When you're putting a big base layer, flat base layer like this down, if you use pencils, you're going to weigh it through your pencils very quickly. I'm using orange, you could use a different colour. Just look at the principles of what I'm doing. Now immediately, and no doubt going to think, why are there those circles showing up on the paper? Well, when I did this, I wasn't sure the easiest ways to tackle these droplets. And initially I put some transfer paper on the pastel matte paper in white, and I just did circles there because I thought it'd be easier to actually follow them. That's why you're seeing those white marks. You don't need to do it. Later on I discovered an easier way is just to put the background down first, blend it, and do the droplets on top. So that's what you're seeing now. Forget those circles, we don't need them. Just put a nice smooth base layer down, preferably with pastel sticks. It's by far the easiest way. PanPastels obviously would also work. Now once I got enough base down, then I want to rub it in, medium firm pressure. Fingers are the best thing to use here, just because you won't then remove much pastel. And you can see it gives me a lovely even and flat base layer to actually work on top of. Then I put a second layer on top because I wanted a bit more variety in the background. I wanted it to look like petals of a rose. Obviously it's really blown up and expanded, but you get that idea. So I wanted to get a few lines down here as well, just to indicate where petals may overlap. Okay, so I'm using some glassine paper. That's just there to rest my hand on. I'm going to start with some of the smaller droplets. You can see I'm going in with a red. It's only just darker than the underlayer. I'm just putting a bit of the outline in. It's a bit darker on top. That's characteristics of these droplets. Along the bottom we've got a lighter area. I'll just get the shadow area in first. So we've got dark at the top, dark at the bottom. You'll see this a lot more when I start to do the larger droplets. The highlight at the bottom, so that's going in with an orange. I'm using lighter strokes then as I'm coming to the top. That's blending it a little bit. Then right at the very bottom I've got a little zing of lightness. Just blend that a bit more, just using that orange. Just a little touch on the bottom again. And it only becomes a droplet when you put the highlight in. So a real spot of bright white on the top in that darker section, and there's your droplet. Simple as that. So let's do one a lot bigger. And now because it's much larger, I can put more details in there. So I'm going fairly round. I left a little section at the bottom because that's going to have a bright highlight in there. I don't want too much contamination or too many layers of pastel when it's going to be much brighter. If I was doing this with large droplets and there was going to be colour changes in there, big colour changes, or it was going to be substantially brighter, I would have either done it like this and then used a putty rubber or some blue tack to lift some of that pastel back off in the droplet, or I would have left the area without pastel in there. You can see I'm using a much darker reddy purple colour. Now I didn't actually, even in my sets, getting a very dark red seems to be pretty much impossible. So I'm having to use this purple. You can see I'm just blending a little bit there. And I'll do the same at the bottom, and then I'll use my red over the top of it. So I couldn't really go dark enough. Now I could get the colours in the soft pastels, but then I'd lose control. I wouldn't be able to get a sharp point in those. so this was pretty much the next best alternative. So you can see I'm using small rounded strokes. Because it's a larger droplet, it is obviously raised up higher from the surface of the petals, so I needed to go darker, and that gives it, as you'll see in the end, the impression of it being a lot more contrasty as well, a lot more vivid. So once again we've got a real zing of highlight here, and that's where it's actually, the light is going out of the droplet, and then I've got this circular bright area at the bottom. I'm just going to blend that in then, or put a bit more down, then I can come back in with the orange. If I just put the orange down, it wasn't going to be bright enough. And actually in this case we've got some yellow in there first, then I'll come in with the orange. So you can see a lot brighter on this larger droplet. I'm just using this Carbothello orange, and I'm using the pencil really very lightly to blend upwards. You see that's giving more of a subtle blend. And very lightly now here as I'm working my way up into the red. Because these droplets can act like little magnifying areas as well, so you do get to see sometimes enlarged or more pronounced texture through them of petals and leaves, which can be quite interesting as well to incorporate. Just softening that edge there on that bottom highlight, a bit more red at the top, so just some small fine adjustments. As I said, if I'd had a darker red, I would have actually used that in the shadow and along the top, so it would have, you know, lifted it a bit more. It would have looked even more punchy. A bit more orange down the bottom, so that's getting quite close. It's surprising how these droplets look nothing at all until we start to put these highlights in, and then all of a sudden they come to life. And in this one we've got some bounced highlights, some little areas of texture going in, all adding to that extra bit of realism. So what do you think? I think they turned out quite well. I'm going to speed up the video so you can see me put some others in. Going to be exactly the same technique. Hope you give this a try. They look quite dramatic for such a simple technique. And if you like short videos like this, let me know in the comments below and I can do some more videos for you all.